Welcome, heathens and witches, to the Horn
and Cauldron
podcast. Yeah, I'm John Norgrove. This is Julie Norgrove. This is our witchy podcast. Today we are talking about Imbolc. This is Imbolc 102, so we're gonna get a little bit more into Imbolc for Imbolc this year or whatnot. If you're checking us out on YouTube, don't forget to like this video, comment below, share, subscribe, ring the bell, and do all that kind of stuff. If you're listening to us on your podcast network of choice, please leave us a review. That's kind of functionally the only way I can find out whether or not somebody's listening to this on a podcast network, because the analytics for podcast networks are all different and lies. So
yeah,
you know, deal with that. But also, if you are listening to this on a podcast and you want to watch our stupid faces, you can watch us on YouTube or Jive on YouTube. Or if you're watching our stupid faces on YouTube and have decided, you can check that out on a podcast network of your choice. It's everywhere. And if it's in a thing if it's not in a place that you listen to podcasts,
let us know.
Tell me, man, so I can put it there.
Yeah.
Because I listen to podcasts on bloody Apple Podcasts. Not because I'm fancy, because that shit's already installed and I can't delete it. So, I don't know where anything else is. Like, I don't use Spotify or whatever the hell that's called.
That's right, we don't.
Yeah, so we are uploaded on Spotify, though. Probably. I'm pretty certain I do that.
Yeah, we are uploaded.
I don't know.
On
Whatever.
Spotify.
And yeah, if you want to check out any of our social or follow us over there or support us over on Patreon or support us over on our Etsy shop, go to nerdjive.com/links and you'll get that stuff there. It'll be linked in the dibbly-doo below. It's linked in the... It's linked everywhere. Nerdjive.com. It's straightforward. It's 2 4-letter words. 3-letter word and a dot.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, bam. Math. So, let's get into this stuff. What is Imbolc?
So,
who is Imbolc?
it's not a
where,
who, it's a what?
Or when did Imbolc exist?
Where is in your house?
Where is everywhere?
Yeah. Okay, so Imbolc takes place traditionally on February 1st in the northern hemisphere, or August 1st if you're in the southern hemisphere. That is about halfway in between the winter solstice, which is Yule, and the spring equinox, which is Ostara. So they call this a cross-quarter day because the quarter days divide the year into quarters and are based on the solstices and the equinoxes.
Yeah.
So the holidays that are not are called cross-quarter days.
Yeah.
So Imbolc is a time to celebrate the coming of spring. So the most of winter is behind us, unless you live in California like we do,
and all of
where the weather is just weird and it's spring now, apparently.
Yeah.
We get winter for like literally 2 months, and that's it.
Yeah.
Anyway,
there was a lot of winter this time, but not as much winter as we would need. We need more winter.
We need more winter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whoever knows that gopher, tell that motherfucker to
Tell
stay
that
inside
gopher.
Or something. Whatever, however that works.
Tell that gopher.
Yeah.
Be afraid
At first,
of the
and when I first started saying that, I was like, whoever knows that turtle. No, it's not a turtle. It's some sort of a land rodent. So yeah, whatever.
It's always surprised me that there isn't like a gopher that does the thing in like the western part of the U.S.
Well, I think Groundhog Day, which is groundhog, not a gopher, but I don't know. Maybe they're the same thing, and I don't know. I think that's only an America thing.
No, I know, but the West Coast is still America.
Yeah, I know, but
so,
listen, we're doing tech and pot, so like the East can have
this is where time comes from.
Future telling gophers
Cupertino.
And business, so or like government business. So yeah, whatever, right? Everybody's got their thing.
Anyway,
we have fucking avocados at a reasonable price, so I'll trade. That's a fair trade in my opinion.
That is true. We did get some avocados on sale this week.
4 avocados for $1 most of the time during avocado season in California. Like that's rad. You know?
Yeah. Out of all of the overpriced grocery bill things, I was not expecting avocados to come in less expensive than other things. So, So anyway, Imbolc is a time to celebrate the coming of spring. And we typically celebrate it with feasting, planning the upcoming harvest, weather divination, and with hearth fires. In ancient times, you may have celebrated them with bonfires also, but as things sort of became more modern, you sort of do that stuff at home.
Yeah.
And like many of the sabbats, most of the sabbats, all of the sabbats, the origins of Imbolc are heavily influenced by Celtic traditions. And this is really because the sabbats were sort of created by the dude who who created Wicca, who we're learning is just like part of like the most Tiger King drama possible as I sort of trapeze through interesting things in our pub chats.
The like generalized practices of the Sabbats all come from more ancient rituals, but like Sabbats TM, you got that background on your cell phone, TikTok filter Sabbats.
Yeah.
That is just like from the 60s or whatever.
Yeah,
right?
Pretty much.
But also like all of the Sabbats as we generally recognize them are like very heavily informed by past shit. Sometimes it's multiple past shits. Sometimes it's completely like just one past shit. So like it's a little all over the place. The Sabbats just sort of like make it easier.
Totally.
Like we are talking about Imbolc and the Sabbats, but like for me, the blots. This is Thorsa blot.
That's right.
During Imbolc.
Yeah.
So it's like a completely different thing, and like it is a little bit of a connection in between the two, but like not also kind of not really.
Yeah.
So like that's one of those things where it's like we're talking about the Sabbats, but also like there are other like festivals based around any particular practice, like within your practice that correlate temporally, or potentially thematically, again depending on like which practice you practice or whatever. Yeah.
Well, and because of a lot of this, most of the information we have about Imbolc and other Sabbats and ancient practices is pretty vague. So reconstructing Imbolc as a holiday shows really strong ties to the goddess Brigid, who, it's like she's the goddess of healing and poetry and the arts, and it's a very like fertility, sun, earth mother kind of goddess. So a lot of the stuff that you see about Imbolc now is very like tied to Brigid. So if you aren't someone who particularly follows the Celtic pantheon or isn't particularly interested in it, then there are other deities, which we'll talk about at the end, that you can also use to celebrate. But most of the information about Imbolc is tied to Brigid. And the celebrations about Imbolc, especially in pre-Christian times, happened at something called passage tombs. Complete with bonfires and large gatherings of people, and most likely feasts and sacrifices. Yeah. Passage tombs themselves date back to the Neolithic period, which is somewhere between 10,000 and 4,500 years BCE. So like 12 to 6,000 years ago. I totally said that like in the most ridiculous way possible.
Yeah, it's fine. She's really bad with time, I guess. I don't know.
And really a passage tomb are just like big rocks that were used to build a structure that would have been placed in such a way that the sun shines through the entrance or the passage on a particular day and time of the year. Sometimes these were partially carved into the ground. Sometimes they were built above ground. Sometimes they're closed in. Sometimes they're not closed in. And they're called passage tombs because of the passage thing. But the tomb part is because we originally thought they were just burial tombs. But not all of the passage tombs that were discovered have indications that they were actually used as burial chambers. Yeah. So it's kind of a misnomer there. Now, after the Christianization of Europe, drinking game, there you go. Number one.
Yeah, just this time, really.
Most of the Imbolc celebrations after the Christianization of Europe were quiet gatherings at home. Bonfires were replaced by keeping the hearth fire lit all night. And if you were lucky enough to be wealthy enough to have multiple hearths, multiple fireplaces in your home, you would have all of them lit all night. Some of this is probably because this is a particularly cold time of year. And some of it is to welcome back the sun, and people would stay up late. It's sort of, as time goes on, you sort of see Imbolc turning, like, really sort of informing a lot of the New Year's traditions that most Western cultures sort of have. So staying up late, having
well, and it's around the same time as, like, Lunar New Year, so...
Yeah, and we're going to talk about Lunar New Year, too.
Yeah, so I mean, it maths out.
Yeah, so instead of large gatherings, families would, and, like, feasts and stuff, families would often share a large meal made with whatever provisions they still had on hand from their winter stores. So this would be vegetables and like starches that are particularly good at outlasting the winter. You know, you're looking at your potatoes and your squash and all of that sort of thing, as well as winter vegetables, broccolis and cabbages and potatoes and whatnot, as well as during this time of year, animals would start milk production again, usually before sort of the spring birthing season. So having milk products was huge. So you would have fresh butter again and fresh milk. And if you were able to do so and had the knowledge, you had you either had fresh cheese that you like just made into cheese, or you would have fermented cheese that is just fresh out of its like aging cycle. You know, so the fermented cheeses would have been made from the last of the milk before winter. They'd be ready right around this time. Sort of the shortest cheeses that are aged are really like that, you know, 4 to 6 month time frame. So you've got a lot of that dairy happening in there. So you can definitely see that that's a very like particular area of Europe that was into this, because in a lot of other areas having dairy like that just wasn't really that common. So you have a lot of that sort of feasty stuff, and people would feast for ancestors and just in general. And oats were also very, very popular. Yeah. So we talked a little bit about the goddess Brigid earlier. So the goddess Brigid, she is daughter of the Dagda. We talk about him in depth in episode 29. If you're interested, check that out. Tons of interesting information, and also tons of unfortunate mispronunciation of words. Only after that episode came out, I acquired a book that gives me really easy to understand pronunciation. So that's fun for me. So she not only is the daughter of the Dagda, but she's a member of the Twelheaded, who are known in modern day as the Fae folk. So you could sort of consider her being a Fae. The goddess Brigid is the goddess of livestock, especially cattle, fertility, spring, the arts, crafts, poetry, blacksmithing, and healing. But some versions of her myths show her more as a triple goddess figure. So there's actually 3 of her, all 3 named Brigid.
Like
3 sisters named Brigid. That's just lazy.
I feel like that's cheating, right? If you name your kid, all 3, your triplets, the same name. You're just like, Ted, and all 3 of them look up and you're like, I don't know, Ted 2, one of you assholes did something wrong.
You're like, left Ted. And they're like, but I'm right Ted.
You're like, well, I'm looking at you, so you're left Ted. Yeah. Motherfucker, it's observer bias. Bam. You just learned a whole ass scientific method thing.
Yeah, so in the myths and instances that we see her as part of a triple goddess figure, there's one sister is worshipped for healing, one sister is worshipped for blacksmithing, and then one sister is worshipped for everything else. The Celts were really into like the triple deity kind of thing. Yeah. So it is possible that Brigid was originally part of one of other 3 goddesses,
multiple
triple goddesses. Yeah. But also maybe she wasn't. A lot of times when we see that there's one deity in Celtic mythology, especially, that is sort of linked to a triple god or triple goddess type of mentality, it's because the other deities were also their siblings. And they sort of just get mishmashed all together in the end. So for more information...
Especially if they all have the same damn name.
Yeah.
Right?
It's easy that way. One's Brigid, spelled with an H. One's Brigid, no H. And one's Brigid with a T.
Brigid with 3 H's.
3 H's. 2 H's. You can do multiple H's there.
Yeah. It's a silent letter. You can do as many H's as you want. That's the secret. Just name your kid 5 H's.
I mean, that sounds like a...
That sounds like a real jackass thing to name your kid. Yes, it probably is. I'm sorry if your name out there is just 5 H's.
Hey, don't give Elon Musk any baby name ideas.
I know, right? Math baby names.
Yeah. So this is Imbolc 102, and we're sort of talking about some very specific things that are more in depth about Imbolc as opposed to sort of like a general overview. So if you want more like general information about Imbolc, sort of variety of ways to celebrate, more information about Brigid, check out our Imbolc 101 episode, which is episode 5. So they're sort of companion episodes, if you will. So really what we're looking at here with Imbolc is that there's cultures around the world that celebrate the coming of spring with festivals that are all about getting good fortune and blessings right after a rigorous cleaning, which essentially purifies the home, the body, and the soul. Now, Imbolc is a time where people go to holy springs traditionally, and they use the water to purify themselves. If a holy well wasn't possible, people would visit what's called a Clutie well, which is a spring.
Gotta get rid of those Cluties, dude.
You gotta get rid of the Cluties.
Crisscross applesauce or whatever that is. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, you gotta circle, dot, dot, get that cootie shot.
Yeah.
I don't crisscross applesauce?
I don't know.
Is that when you sit cross-legged on the floor?
I actually don't know what that is.
Okay.
Yeah. Maybe that's just cross-legged on the floor. Man, I don't.
We don't have kids.
I was a kid like 8,000 years ago, dude. Shit's weird and different now. Arguably worse, but what do I know, right? I mean, I'm just a disaffected millennial, so. But whatever.
Yeah, let's
all be sad together, guys. Da-da-da-da-da.
That's basically it. So a Clutie well is essentially a spring with a well with a tree growing near it, and trees that grew near like these wells, even holy wells or just sort of like local springs, were sort of considered sacred and holy. We live in a forest, so for me, I'm just like, obviously the spring is going to be next to a tree. Yeah. So because thinking about
also, I feel like the well would more likely collapse in if it was next to a tree and or be harder to dig up, but like whatever.
I don't even know. I don't know. I am not a well master, so. People would a wellswoman.
Yeah, a wells person.
People would go to these wells, and they would usually walk around them a certain number of times, and then they would splash the water on themselves, and they would typically dip a strip of cloth into the water and then tie it onto a nearby tree, to sort of have good luck and blessings follow them. Why they tie it onto the tree, I don't really know.
Yeah, because Cluties bring the leaves back.
Apparently so. Yeah. So, and sometimes they would take additional strips of cloth or like bandages and dip them into the water and take those back home with them. And you can see some of that in later traditions with Brigid on Imbolc, where you put out strips of cloth on the bush outside of your front door, and she blesses it with the dew of Imbolc morning. Basically.
Cool.
Yeah. So we talk a little bit more about that part in the Imbolc episode 5, but we also talk about Clutie wells again in Lunasa, which is episode 17. So it's actually pretty common to go to holy wells on holy days. Who knew?
Yeah, holy stuff is related.
Yeah. Now, when this episode comes out, it will be not only Imbolc Day, but it'll also be the first day of Lunar New Year, 2022. And while this isn't technically part of the pagan heathen sphere...
Is Lunar New Year and Imbolc, do those always intersect? Plus or minus a day or two because our calendar's dumb?
They generally intersect within a week of each other.
Okay, that's kind of what I figured, yeah.
As well as a bunch of other things too, like Candlemas is right there. That's a very Abrahamic religion thing. There's a lot happening this time of year when it comes to spring. Actually, considerably more as you go from February into March than just like middle to end of March on the spring equinox.
Sure.
Because I know around here, we're already seeing the signs of spring. In fact, we've been seeing the signs of spring at our house for like a month now. Our tortoise went into hibernation in August and came out in December and was like, I'm done for the year with hibernating. So that was crazy. Anyway, so Lunar New Year is the same day as Imbolc this year. And there's a ton of customs that are sort of mirrored in Imbolc and Lunar New Year. So as we go through these other themes, we're going to be talking about Imbolc and we're going to be talking about Lunar New Year. Also, I grew up in an area and in a neighborhood where Lunar New Year was very widely celebrated. So for me, it's part of my pagan and heathen journey. And if it's not part of your pagan and heathen journey, that is totally fine. Yeah. You do you. So Lunar New Year's customs usually call for the cleaning of the house before the start of the new year. We also see some of this with Imbolc traditions too, where you want to complete all of your cleaning before Imbolc Eve. So that would be the day before Imbolc. And really with Lunar New Year, you're looking to, and even with Imbolc, you're looking to sweep out the old in order to make room or to usher in the new. You know, imagine energy is sort of a vacuum, and when you sweep out old energy, you're getting in new, fresh, hot energy. Yeah, that makes maybe sense, not hot, maybe it's cool. Depends on what you want. Yeah. So basically you're getting rid of all of those old negative energies and sort of like mental headspaces so that there's room to receive good energy and luck. Because it's not just good energy. It can't be just good vibes all the time.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
Those people are a bit much.
Yeah. Now, this is one that's different between Imbolc and Lunar New Year, is that with Lunar New Year festivities, usually there is no more cleaning until a few days or up to a week after the new year. So you're not essentially sweeping out any good luck that would have happened in the meantime.
Yeah. Man, that sounds like just a party mess for a week, dude. What?
Right?
Yeah.
I was thinking about the logistics of that because today I was like
normally
I'm going to clean up as much of the house as possible.
Yeah.
In preparation for Imbolc and Lunar New Year and whatnot. And I'm just like, oh boy.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to do dishes tomorrow because you have to do, we don't have a dishwasher and we live in a really small house. So we have to do the dishes every single day, sometimes multiple times a day. Otherwise they just pile up.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then
well, and like, okay, so like pre-Sharona, we fucking it's like my Sharona, but before
that was good. I wasn't even gonna point it out. I was gonna let you just
I had to say
have that victory.
So we would have like for all of the blots, all of the what do you call these? Sabbats. Man, I don't know how that word is. It's way more common, but like my brain is like was just like blots the word. Go with it forever.
You would think it's like a bit that you do on purpose.
Nope.
But
Nope. I'm just bonked in the head or something.
The way your head goes.
Yeah. But so like like in the early times, we would do Sabbat festivals at our house with like friends and family, and like I could only imagine having like leaving that around for a fucking week, dude. We would have all of the ants. That movie Ants, the one from the 50s with those big ass ants.
So
bam, this house.
Many cans of beverages.
Oh my god.
Not just beer, but like
we
soda.
Would have to, the thing is what we'd have to do
Mm-hmm.
is like as the party's winding down, because like the party would be winding down theoretically pre-midnight.
Oh, that's fair.
Right?
Yeah.
Or like around midnight, we're just like, hey guys, it's 11:50. Pick up your drinks and throw them in the garbage. I can't touch nothing for a week. What is that, a wrapper on the ground?
That is the entertaining pro tip. As somebody who entertains not just for like, Sabbats and plots and stuff, but also just throws sort of like a lot of parties in the pre-apocalypse times.
Yeah.
Like when you want people to start getting out of here, you just start cleaning the house. Because you know what's going to happen? People are going to start helping you clean.
Yeah.
And then after they're done, so they're either going to leave immediately or they're going to help you clean. And the ones who help you clean, after they're done helping you clean, they're going to be like, all right, time for me to go. Yeah. And then you have
it just becomes a chill after the party. So
yeah.
Because we've definitely been like, all right, like we got to clean up
where
this
people are
hellfire.
where people are eating like the gross party leftovers that you don't want to eat like the next day, like chip dip or whatever. They're like, I guess I'm gonna eat this so that you don't have to put it in the fridge. And you're like, please
put on a good movie. Everybody fall asleep on the couch.
Yeah.
Get up and drive home at 2 o'clock in the morning.
That's pro party tip right there. So I usually don't clean for like somewhere between like 5 and 7 days. It sort of depends on how you celebrate. And I'm just like, that's definitely not happening in this house. But I did all the vacuuming. We will
designate one space to not be cleaned. It'll be a 3-inch by 3-inch square of space in the house. That's the dirty space. The problem is that if we point that space out, honestly, one of the dogs is going to ruin something in that space. They're going to be like, hey, poo in that space. Just to mock us.
Just to do it.
To mock us.
Because all three of them are jerks.
Yeah, dogs. It's okay.
So that's the ways that you sort of deal with cleansing and purifying between Imbolc and Lunar New Year. And we see some of this in other festivals too. Like we talk about this a lot in our Persephone episode. A lot of Persephone's a lot of her feasts and her festivals, they're preceded by 3 days or so of fasting to cleanse and purify your body. And presumably to get all the food out so that you have room for tons of food. Yeah. So, we definitely see that in a ton of other cultures with usually spring, but in some places it's sort of like whenever it happens. Now, ways that you can cleanse and purify your space for Imbolc or even whenever is you can take a cleansing bath or a shower. That's a really nice way to do it. Relaxing too. You can of course do smoke cleansing, or you can do water cleansing. I think it's asperging. There's a word for it.
No,
I
I've never
can't
heard
think
that
of what
word.
it is. So
Water cleansing is what it's called. Smoke cleansing. What is it? Smoke. What is it doing? Cleansing. Water cleansing. What is it? Water.
Well, you
what is it
kind of
doing?
like
Cleansing.
take
Fire
you
cleansing.
Kind of like,
most efficient way to cleanse.
we're not gonna cleanse the house with fire.
I'm just saying, the purity of fire. Fire cleansing. It all makes sense. So I feel like water cleansing is the way it's called, but if you have a fancy name for it, yeah, rock and roll, guys. Rock and roll.
We have a
also, if you're smoke cleansing, I'm just gonna make a couple of suggestions. One, don't burn your fucking house down. Pay attention to
there's
sparks that
your
are falling.
second drinking game.
And two, way the fuck more importantly, check your fire alarms. Because if you put a bunch of smoke in your house, fire alarm's gonna go off.
Ooh, yeah. Yeah, we definitely have done that.
And
before.
like, if you just have like an old house with old fire alarms, you know, you just like, I don't know, I guess pull out the battery before you do it and then put it back in or something stupid
I don't
like that.
think that we should be talking about that.
Yeah, whatever you do.
Maybe don't listen to that.
However you cleanse your house, use less smoke.
We
right?
do not recommend that you take the battery out of your fire alarms.
You should not definitely do that. Well, that's why you can't do that anymore. Yeah, there are no batteries in most of the fire alarms that we have nowadays. They're supposed to be like always on fire alarms or whatever.
Yeah, I lived in a house that had that. And
my dad owned a condo where the fire alarm for the house was for the whole damn five houses condominium unit.
Oh, that's awful.
Yeah. So if
I'm a smoky cooker too.
If any person in the house,
even be able to eat
little too much smoke, whole ass unit had to be bloody.
Ooh,
yeah,
that's bad.
Yeah,
no
yeah. Let me tell you what, that was never, and it was like Silent Hill fucking loud too. It was like a big damn fire bell, and we were like the end unit, so it was like right outside the end unit, so you could hear it like da 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 da, like it was. You were like, oh my god, World War III, this is ridiculous. Like, yeah, it was crazy. Yeah. Remember that time we set the fire alarm off at the long stay place?
Yeah.
She's a smoky cooker. It's okay.
I'm a smoky cooker. I don't know how it happens. It just does. Yeah, just
no judge. Whatever.
Yeah, everything's just a little. I mean, the food isn't really smoky.
Oh, the food isn't smoky at all. No,
the food is not.
It's just that, like, sometimes the skillet gets a little too warm and the olive oil gets a little too smoky.
Yeah, or whatever oil it is that I'm using.
Oil, yeah.
Because it's basically everything. Because we went on like a nice little like vacation, and it was like this cute little hotel that there was like a suite that we got. So it had like a full kitchen. It was basically like hotel. Staying in a 1-bedroom apartment.
Yeah.
And we were the only people staying there, and the people who ran the property, they like lived there too, and they're only like, a unit or two away from us. And twice I set off the fire alarm. Yeah. Twice.
That being said, the window next to the kitchen doesn't open. And the fan was super weak.
Also, I've also
stayed at an Airbnb one time where we were like, oh, we're gonna cook some food, so like we're gonna turn the fan on, and the fan sounded like 4 freight trains were going through the house. So we're just like, nope. We're just gonna be very careful and not set off a fire alarm because that's so loud that I can't hear myself think while I'm cooking next to it. Like, I'm afraid somebody's gonna call the police. Hey, there's an airplane in that house. I don't know how. Yeah, it was bad loud, dude. We were like, none of this.
Who invited Thomas the Train?
Yeah, right.
So anyway, not smoke cleansing, but you can like take take a small vessel of water and you like dip your fingers in it, or like a branch of sorts, like a leafy branch, and then you sort of just shake that around the area. And I can't think of what that name is. And we have one very specific listener who I know does this, and she is screaming at the top of her lungs. We're sorry word right now.
Leave a comment in the diddly do.
And I hear you too, so I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's just lost right now. It's fine.
Yeah. So other ways to cleanse and purify: you can also vacuum or sweep with intentions designed to sort of get rid of old or negative energies. So best way to do this would be just sort of like put on some music that's like super chill that you think is like sort of uplifting, or just like either uplifting or relaxing depending on what your particular preference is, and then just sort of think about like what you're doing as you're vacuuming or sweeping. You're picking up all the old gross stuff, and then you're getting rid of it, and then you're taking that trash out, and then it's going outside and you're getting rid of all that negative energy.
Yeah, just add intention.
Yeah, just add intention. Makes vacuuming way more fun, trust me.
Yeah.
And then you can also cleanse or purify your magical tools. If you're washing, if you're washing anything on your altar, make sure that it is safe to be washed. There is a lot of things, whether they are rocks or gems or stones or not, that should not be in the water.
Yeah.
So, drinking game number 3.
Yeah, well, and like when you're washing stuff, be careful with all that. Kind of like, should it be in water? Is it going to rust afterwards? Like, if it's a piece of wood, like it could rot.
Yeah.
Or mold. So, and don't be like loosey goosey with it. Where you're getting water everywhere, and then you just have like a pool of water on your altar space. I guess unless you're supposed to have a pool of water on your altar space, then you're fine. But yeah, so just think about that.
Yeah. And if you're cleaning clothes or anything like that else, you can just sort of basically do the same thing with the vacuuming or sweeping. Just add intentions to what it is that you're doing to kind of help to cleanse and purify. You could even do purifying or cleansing rituals or spells. Sky's the limit here, really. There's tons of things that you can do with it. So once you've cleansed and purified, now it's time to welcome the new beginnings. So this sort of goes hand in hand with all these cleansing and purification rites, because now that you've sort of taken out all the bad stuff, you're going to just receive in all the good stuff, because you're not going to want to receive bad stuff. Why would that work? So with Imbolc, we have Brigid's cross, and we also have the strips of cloth, and you can also create a Brydog doll, which is like a little grain doll that looks like Brigid, that you sort of dress in scraps and place in a little bed that brings you good things. But Brigid's cross is a really fun, crafty thing that you can do too, or if you're not so crafty inclined, that's totally fine. You can also purchase one. But a Brigid's cross is typically made of woven rushes and has 4 equilateral arms, and they sort of like stick out like a spoke. So the best thing to do to see what this looks like is just literally Google it. It will tell you.
Find a YouTube video of how to make one, and then buy whatever that is, and then make one.
So rushes are usually just sort of like thin reeds that you'll find, not even necessarily by water, which is rushes are typically found by water, but you can sort of use anything. Like you've got long grass that grows in your backyard, you can just pick some of that and do it with that. And you can do it either when it's dried or when it's wet. If you're doing these when it's dry, you're going to want to soak them in water first so they're more pliable. But once you've created the Brigid's cross, or once you've acquired a Brigid's cross, it's placed in your home, usually above a door or above your hearth for protection. And when Imbolc comes around, you typically burn or place last year's cross in a river to release the old energies. Whichever one is your preference. I would suggest maybe don't set it on fire and put it in a river, though.
Yeah, don't do both. Like you can only do one of them. New rule.
There can only be one.
Yeah, it's like the Highlander of crosses. So yeah, definitely don't do that. And also, if you're gonna put the cross above your hearth, make sure that it's safe and like.
Yeah, again, you don't want that catching on fire.
Yeah, don't put just like straw above your fireplace. That's ridiculous. Come on, guys.
That's worse than putting a TV above your fireplace.
Yeah, right? Oh, man, poor electronics.
Yeah. So for Lunar New Year, we see some similar things. So Imbolc, we're really looking at like decorations. There's this Brigid's cross, and then there's these strips of cloth, and then there's this Brydog doll. So for Lunar New Year, we're also looking at decorations. So lanterns, paintings, fresh flowers, images of this year's animal, which is for 2022 is the tiger, and very specifically water tiger, as well as couplets. So one of the interesting things for Lunar New Year is when you have these decorations, they're put up, the decorations are meant for different things. Like lanterns ward off bad energy, and the paintings are sort of usually like heroes that are helping to defend your home against bad energy, and fresh flowers is welcoming the new year, and images of the animal sort of plies that spiritual animal for luck, in this next year. And couplets is an interesting one, because couplets are essentially just like little poems or sayings, and they're typically on typically on vertically on just like strips of paper.
Yeah.
And you have to arrange them in a specific way. And one of the ones, it's not particularly a couplet, it's more of a symbol, is fu, which is a symbol that means good luck. Mm-hmm. So what's interesting about these ones is that you actually hang the fu symbol upside down, so that you're pouring all of the luck out into your home. I really love that. And you also, during Lunar New Year, celebrate with friends and family. You have feasts with special foods that are very, very specific and aligned to the blessings that you want to bring in this year. And we're planning on doing some of that. We'll talk about that in a minute. But there's also gifts, and you have like the money envelopes that you typically give to children or other people that you know that's good luck. And also offerings to ancestors so that they bring you blessings and luck in the coming year. So receiving in these new beginnings is even more multifaceted and has even more availability for you to do sort of whatever meets your particular tradition. However you like to celebrate, whatever your magical journey is, you can really sort of take any piece of that and put it into Imbolc. And that's what I think is so interesting about Imbolc, because we know so little about how we would have traditionally celebrated, that we kind of take what it is that we know out there that exists for spring celebrations, and we sort of do whatever we want that makes sense to us.
Yeah.
Yeah. So other ways for you to usher in new beginnings would be to redo or refresh your altar space.
If you'll notice on YouTube, we still have Christmas up, Yule up. That's 100% because I'm lazy. Like 100%. No, there's no excuse.
It's not even lazy. We've been busy. We have not had a chance.
We're busy. We could have tried harder.
We could have.
To be fair.
That being said, we will probably end up doing it like day after tomorrow.
Yeah.
Because now we've spoken it too many times and it has to happen.
Yeah, now we'll clean up. So
yeah.
Stay tuned for that change.
But even if your altar space is, even if you're like in the closet and you have sort of like a low key or, sort of like generic looking altar space, you can always refresh it, add in fresh flowers or rearrange things in a different way.
Yeah.
That sort of thing. Another way to sort of usher in new beginnings or sort of reinforce new beginnings is to meditate on your intentions for the year. So in our in one of our recent episodes, we talked about New Year's resolutions. So think about how your New Year's resolutions are doing in a way that doesn't make you feel bad if you're not keeping up on them.
You're not doing 100% of the things that you thought you were going to do. Yeah. But maybe now's the time to reflect on those and then update those resolutions to something that's a little bit more approachable and a little bit less absurd. Why did you think you were going to do that to start with? Exactly.
Or to get rid of resolutions that sort of no longer fit your space.
Or honestly, even if you are keeping up with your resolutions, even if you are keeping up with your resolutions, but you decide like, well, this is a bit much. Maybe I'm not going to do these 5 things. Maybe I'll only do like 4 of these things. Yeah. Or something to that extent.
Yeah. And then you can also ask deities or ancestors to bless, guide, or protect you in the coming seasons. Now is a great time of year to start working anew with a deity or with ancestors or other types of spirits. And there are several sects, particularly in the Wiccan community, where now is a time where you either dedicate yourself to the path of Wiccanry or to the goddess, or you rededicate yourself, just sort of in that preparation for spring. And much like how we talked about in the fall with Lunasa and Mabon and Samhain, how they're like the 3 harvest festivals, this is the first of 3 really sort of like spring festivals. So we're still seeing some of the influences of the winter festival behind us with Yule, and we're starting to see more of that spring festival stuff that we're seeing with Ostara. So we're not like the birds and the bees, let's get it on. I mean, but like if you're getting it on, that's fine. But we are seeing some of that. So we just sort of like have our back to winter and we have our face to spring, but it's like not really here yet. It's sort of like that time of year where you're like, oh my gosh, the first warm, sunny day of the year. I'm going to get out my tank tops.
Where you're going to go outside in the morning and be like, this shit is cold. And then around lunchtime, you're going to be like, look at this beautiful last day. I'm going to like wear light clothes and then go to the store. And then by the time you're done in the store, come outside and you're like 100% should have brought a jacket. This is a fucking horrible idea.
Or it's dark and then you're freezing.
Yeah. So, that's this time of year. Is you're just going to be like a little cold or a little warm all of the time.
Yeah.
At least for us.
Yeah, especially where we live. Our county is known for needing to dress in layers. So, how do we celebrate Imbolc and Lunar New Year?
Yeah. Well, normally we have like a festival event with friends.
We normally have like a sabbat. We usually have, when we do sabbats, we usually do like hangout and like a craft item if people want to do crafts, because you always want to give drunk people something to do.
And crafts are the best to do when you're drunk.
And also the best to do as an adult. I just want to sit down and like do some coloring and like
preschool is wasted on the young
class.
Dude.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. And we usually
I can spend all day and like listen to a story and build and like play with crafts. That's called a good weekend, my bro. That's just straight up Netflix and chill. Like, what's up?
Yeah, exactly. Or like Audible and chill.
Yeah.
Audible and craft.
Yeah, Audibles and crafts. Seriously, it's awesome.
Yeah, we usually do.
That's what we do when the power goes
like
out.
a feast thing too. And for Imbolc, we usually do a baked potato bar, where I just do a whole bunch of baked potatoes, whole bunch of fixins for baked potatoes, and then everybody makes whatever baked potatoes.
Yeah, baked potato bar is super easy to do, and it's a great warm, heavy food.
It's hearty.
You know?
Yeah.
Totally.
And it also turns into leftover as well, because usually when we have a Sabbath, we end up eating that food for like a week.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, we have to figure out other ways to consume it, lest we never want to eat that thing again.
Yeah. And usually towards the end, we're feeding part of it to the chickens anyway, because I'm just like, I don't want to eat this anymore.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so we usually do a Sabbat. We usually do a ritual. Now that we live in the My Sharona times, things are definitely different.
Yeah,
and we're probably not going to do that at all this year, especially because of the things that are happening currently. But we do look forward to doing it in the future. So for us, Imbolc is sort of like the time where we can take some rest and take some relaxing from what is always for us a very busy holiday season, and sort of feel renewed, because even when New Year's comes around, we just sort of don't really have that renewal sense yet. And I think that's just because we have so many other things happening. Like, we've got other birthdays that are really close to us. So for us, the holiday season,
a lot of family
starts in November and goes
stuff.
all the way through the end of January. So it's a pretty long holiday season for us.
Yeah.
And Imbolc for us is sort of like a time of quiet rest and renewal and contemplation in preparation for the spring.
Yeah, making plans for what we're going to do in the spring and what we're going to do for the house in the summer, and anything else like that. So it's kind of just getting everything in order throughout January, and then sort of hit the ground running in February with new projects and stuff like that.
Totally. And boy, do we have a lot of new projects coming up.
Yeah.
I'm very excited about all these new projects.
It's going to be awesome, but man, I don't know why I'm doing fucking 12 jobs now.
A lot.
It's too many
We
jobs.
also celebrate, so not only with Imbolc and doing a ritual, and we have a simple Imbolc ritual that we're going to share with you guys in a little bit, but we also usually do some Lunar New Year type stuff.
Yep. We do a little bit of Lunar New Year, a little bit of Imbolc, a little bit of Thorsablad,
a little bit of Mardi Gras.
Yeah. Well, that's in the Gras of Mardi.
It's usually in February.
Yeah, no, it's just fun with you.
Okay, I was just
Whatever.
do you not know what
maybe Mardi Gras
is?
Isn't? Maybe Mardi Gras is in March.
No, it's not.
Yeah, it's the same sound. Mardi, March. There you go.
No.
It's in April. Mardi, April.
No.
Maroon. All proper nouns start with m.
Now you're just saying M words.
Yeah. I'm not saying M words. None of those were M words. Yeah, maroon isn't a word. That's just J into an M.
It sounded like you either said moon or maroon, and I mean both of those are M words.
Maroon.
Maroon?
Yeah, maroon.
Yeah, that just sounds like you're saying maroon, but with an accent. Anyways, so we usually do a lot of food-based stuff around this time also.
Yeah. Well, it's generally it's kind of an easy way to celebrate, specialize your food. It's like magical tacos, that kind of thing.
Protection tacos, it's my jam.
It's easy to just take a couple of important correspondences, you pair them up with like the theme that you want for that particular holiday, and then go to town. If you're not a like kitchen person, if you're not like a cook your own meals kind of person, obviously you can just again do that little bit of research and then like choose one or two things and then find food that's within your like category of availability.
Yeah.
And also matches up with the like one or two of the 3 or 4 correspondences that you found.
Yeah, and we have a huge correspondence list for food.
Yeah.
That we'll discuss at the end of the podcast, as well as it'll be like on physical paper for those of you who are patrons of us on our Horn and Cauldron Coven tier.
On Patreon, you get the Book of Shadows pages. So, and we're catching up, guys.
We're getting there.
Yeah. It is a lot. It is a lot of work, but I am catching up. So
yeah. So this year, what we decided to do was our plan was take down the Yule altar, put up new, fresh spring altar. Hasn't happened yet. We'll check that box soon. And then I realized that Lunar New Year and Imbolc are basically happening on the same day, and this is also part of the ancient heathen, like Icelandic month of Thorblot, where you celebrate the god Thor. Typically, the celebrations start at the beginning of the month of Thorblot, which in 2022 happened to be on your birthday.
Yeah.
Which was January 20th.
You're welcome.
So that did not happen. We did not have time for that. We also did not do stuff for Robbie Burns night like we typically do. So we're sort of taking the like weird food holiday stuff that we typically do in January, just sort of shifting it a little bit later and including it in here. So we're basically doing our Imbolc as Imbolc, Lunar New Year, and Thorblot together. And for that, what we're going to be doing is we're creating like a feast. Yeah,
we're going to create a little feast, and we're gonna make a little YouTube video about it. So you'll get to join us in the kitchen as we make a weird hodgepodge feast. It's gonna be different. It's gonna be interesting. I really love blending flavors and
cuisines
and doing like weird like what's that asshole call it? Fusion food.
Conquistador food.
Oh, conquistador food
is the term I think you're looking for.
I call it conquistador food. I'm not that asshole. I mean, I'm probably that asshole. Let's be totally real. But no, it's like fusion food. That was the word I was looking for.
Yeah, so, fusion works too, I guess.
Yeah, so we're doing some weird fusion food for this one. But yeah, so stay tuned for that. That's going to come out tomorrow. So February 1st, depending on when you're listening to this. And that'll just be on YouTube.
Yeah. Yeah, so we're planning on doing foods that are sort of geared towards Lunar New Year with its food symbolism and taking that and sort of mishmashing the other pieces in there. So Thorblot is like delicacies, like rarities, delicacies, generally pungent foods as well. And when we take that and we look at what's available through the seasonality of eating for Imbolc, and then we take a look at the Lunar New Year stuff, we see that, you know, noodles are for long life. So we're going to do chow mein. We're going to do chicken teriyaki chow mein. And then I've been talking about making lumpia for like literally a month now. So we're going to do it. I'm going to make some lumpia. It's going to be fantastic. It's not going to be traditional lumpia though. We're taking the Thorblot thing, and Thor has 2 goats that that are like his companions, and basically they spring anew every day after he eats them.
Yeah. They just regrow whatever part that he ate.
Yeah. So the closest thing to goat we have is lamb. So we're basically doing like a curried lamb lumpia, which is going to be
let's not spoil the fun here, and watch the YouTube video if you want to know all of the things. Yeah. Because there's more. So don't worry about that.
That's right.
Let's just go right on to that ritual.
Yeah, so we've got a nice and simple Imbolc ritual for you guys. Very similar to the Yule ritual that we did, just to kind of make things easier on everyone. And you can do this whenever you want. So we often say that when you're celebrating a particular sabbat or magical holiday, that you don't need to do it on that day, and the same is true of Imbolc as well.
Yeah, if you're busy on a Tuesday, which is fucking reasonable, by the way, like do it on a Saturday. It don't matter that much, guys.
Yeah.
Right? If
nobody's gonna be mad at you.
If you don't got gold coins and you're just using gold coin chocolate coins, I mean, you know what? It's the thought that counts on this. It's not like somebody's gonna be like, well, this person who can barely afford to eat food every day didn't give me a real ass gold coin. Like, that's not how this works, man.
Yeah.
That's some toxic gatekeeping nonsense that we do not partake in.
Yeah.
You know?
Exactly.
So if you want to do it, hey, rock and roll. Like, more power to you. We are obviously doing a feast on a Tuesday and recording it and editing it and putting it out on YouTube because I just hate myself or something. I don't know why I thought this was a good idea, but it's going to be, so bam. And of course, it's the kind of food that we can't really do much preparation. We actually can't do any preparation today, so we're going to be like, get up early, prep the prep stuff, work all day, finish cooking a feast, recording, or like cook a feast, record it, and edit and upload it.
Probably eat dinner at like 10 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's fine.
Let's hope not, but yeah.
No.
So for this Imbolc ritual, in addition to any other magical items that you want to have, altar decorations or, any other tools that you use, you're going to want something to drink. You're going to want a small snack. You're going to want 5 candles, 1 for each point of the pentagram. And you're going to want a cup containing ice cubes. No water, just ice. So first, start by casting a circle and clearing your mind. And then you will light the air candle. So each of the candles will be placed on the points of the pentagram. So you'll light the candle for air and say, "Spirits of air, bless me with fragrant breezes." Next, light the earth candle and say, "Spirits of earth, awaken the seeds of possibility within me." Now light the water candle and say, "Spirits of water, bathe me in your gentle rains." And now light the fire candle and say, "Spirits of fire, rekindle the flame that lights my soul." Lastly, light the spirit candle and say, "Spirits of my ancestors, illuminate my path." Now, take the cup of ice cubes between your hands, so just like hold it in your hands, and say, "As the wheel turns, I welcome the light and warmth of the sun. Just as the sun melts the snow which nourishes the land, the warmth of my hands melts this ice so this water can nourish my magic." And while you're holding this cup, reflect on the beginning of spring. However, if it starts to get too cold, just put it down. You can put it down whenever you start to feel uncomfortable about it.
Put that ice in a shaker. Make yourself a cocktail. Magical cocktail.
So reflect on the beginning of spring. The world is awakening again. The air feels fresh and it's full of possibilities. What seeds will you nurture this year? What magical goals do you have? And how will you use this blessed water? Yeah. Just envision that journey for you mentally, or think about it, and maybe write it down, whatever floats your boat.
Yeah.
And then when you're ready, say, "I consecrate and bless this water. It washes away negative energy and increases the power of any spell I use it in. As above, so below, as within, so without, my will be done." Now, enjoy your small snack, being sure to leave behind a sip and a bite for the spirits. And you can just leave the cup with the ice just sort of in your altar space somewhere. Mm-hmm. Again, a lot of times there's condensation on that. Make sure that you're not going to be ruining anything on your altar.
Yeah, maybe put it on like a coaster or
on a plate or in a bowl or something.
Yeah, whatever.
And then once you're ready, thank the spirits, extinguish the candles, and let your ice melt completely. Once that's done, place it into a jar or a bottle until you're ready to use it for spell work. If you're using it right away, you can ingest that water. That's totally fine. But if you are not using that water right away, do not put it in a jar and then drink it later.
Yeah. If you have a cup of ice and you let it melt to water and you drink it immediately as it's melting into water, okay. If you let it sit there, that's gross water. Don't put it in your body. Use it for other shit.
It actually could make you sick.
Yeah. That's why it's gross.
Which sounds weird, right? But it's totally a thing. Look at Legionnaire's disease. Horrifying.
Yeah.
So that's your simple Imbolc ritual. And we've actually done this a couple of times. One time we went and got a big old block of ice from the freezer at the local grocery store.
One of those like 10-pound
like rectangle blocks.
Big rectangle, like a brick of ice.
Yeah, and then we just let that melt, and then we use that as blessed water for like a year and a half.
Yeah, like for fucking ever. We let it melt in a 5-gallon bucket, by the way.
Yeah, it took so long
forever
to
melt. And
that
also,
water.
that water was like
By the time we were
It
done
had
with
stuff
that water,
floating in it by the time it was done melting. Just because like debris falls from the sky, and obviously we're not gonna have a 5-gallon bucket of ice water melting in our house. At this point in time, you're just asking the house to get colder for no reason. So
yeah,
that shit melted
and we don't
outside,
need that,
bro.
especially because that was, at the very beginning when we didn't know how to use the
in the beginning
fireplace.
Wood burning stove in my house. Hey, that's not really heating the house very much. Now. The moment I start a fire in the wood burning stove, the house is 95 degrees and the dogs are like, I don't want to be here anymore. Can I be like one of those abandoned dogs?
Yeah.
It's too hot in this house. Because we've gotten really, really efficient with the wood burning stove, so it heats the house up like super fast and then we just let it burn out.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like we use like way less wood than before and it's way more efficient, but you know.
But you have to deal with
every stove is little fucking things you gotta do.
deal with like a 30-degree temperature shift because it'll go from like 60 degrees to like almost 90 and then we let it cool and
so our house is just all over the place temperature wise, but that's fine.
We have a lot of blankets, so that helps. So correspondences, time for me to read a list out loud. So correspondences for Imbolc, for animals: cow, lambs, the phoenix, sheep, and any burrowing animal. Looking at you, Groundhog Day.
Yeah.
Colors would be gold, red, and yellow. Stones, kind of any of those colors for stones also. So like amber, blue topaz, citron, garnet, turquoise. Some of the blue sort of creeps in there too. Think blue snow, blue cold, blue sky. And those, all of those stones there. As for plants, cinnamon, daffodil, hyacinth, and any white or yellow flowers are really popular around this time. For foods, bannock is a traditional food associated with Imbolc. It's essentially an oat cake, so kind of like an oaty muffin. It's pretty delicious. Broccoli, seasonal. Colcannon, another traditional Irish food for this, which is basically mashed potatoes with cabbage in it. Pretty tasty. May not sound very good, but it is delicious, especially if you like cabbage.
Potatoes and fucking cabbage. What?
I mean,
get out of here.
People are weird, yeah.
Yeah, cabbage is delicious, bro. If you had bad cabbage, that's just because it was cooked improperly. Too much is generally the problem with cooking vegetables, right?
That is true.
You're like, oh, I don't like this. I don't like cooked carrots. Well, that's because you're cooking them until it's baby food. That's not a cooked carrot now. That's just mush, bro.
Yeah.
Blanch that shit.
Yeah.
Right? Give it some texture. Use your teeth.
Yeah. Also, dairy products, any sort of dried fruit, lamb, onions, oranges, really any citrus.
Onions aren't citrus.
Onions are not citrus,
Just in case
but oranges are.
Yeah, probably.
Seeds, spinach, squash, and any round or seasonal foods work. Round because the sun is round.
Any seasonal foods are just round shit.
I know.
Right? So does that mean that Oreos would officially be the sponsor for Imbolc?
I don't know about officially.
Because it's round-ass cookie?
I mean, they are round, and the sun is round. That's basically where the round food correspondence comes in. So is there something that you want to eat that isn't on this list? Make it round. Now
Pizza.
It works.
Round.
Pizza.
I'm just saying, guys. It's real easy to
also
make
like the way
that
pizza is cut kind of like mimics rays of the sun.
Yeah, there you go. See, look at all the symbolism. Go have a pizza.
Yeah, pizza in bulk.
Except for that thin crust pizza we had this weekend. That was cut into squares. It's
Little Caesars cuts their pizza.
Their thin crust pizza
into like squares, and
it's delicious.
Insanity.
But I think the reason why is because if they didn't cut it into squares, it's not structurally sound enough. You would just be like, here's this, and it's like, pew, and like flaccid pizza is, especially
if you're not eating it right away.
Especially that's not grand.
Like sitting there for a couple hours.
So any
pizza for Imbolc.
Yeah.
Pizza for Imbolc. For deities, of course, Brigid, like we said earlier, but other deities associated with this holiday are also Athena, Danu, Demeter, Hestia, and Persephone. Symbols are really just like beginnings and purifications. Candles are a big symbol for this holiday, grain dolls, and again, the sun, round things.
Yeah. Well, and like spring things like
and
the
like
sun.
spring things. Yeah.
Totally. And that was just like a partial list, mostly because we don't want to be here for 400 million years. So if you want the full list, that's going to be available on our Patreon. So that's part of the Horn and Cauldron podcast tier of our Patreon. Smooth-ish transition into Patreon talk. If you join that tier, you not only get all of the Book of Shadows pages for all of the episodes of the podcast, access to them, they're on Patreon. But I also do like fun cell phone wallpapers for most of these. Just because like I already spent put in the monstrous effort for graphics. So like why not turn it into a wallpaper? And I'm one of those people that has to change their cell phone wallpaper like all the time.
Ooh, I am not that person.
Yeah, no.
I just recently
if I've seen the same image too many times, I'm just like, done. Throw it away.
Oh, no.
Garbage.
I just recently changed mine and realized that when I changed it, the background was from Samhain.
Jesus. No.
It was very specifically your Samhain
cheese.
cell phone background.
Cheese and crackers, no. So yeah, whatever. So you get those. You also get access to a Discord chat where we just hang out and chat.
Not even all about magical stuff.
Yeah, sometimes we just chat about like life stuff or like weather or like whatever. Just like be friends.
Crafts and whatnot.
Yes. Join our Patreon, become our friends. But so yeah, you just get to like chat with that kind of stuff. And then we also have a higher tier. Those are the stakeholders. Because of all the stakes. That's a Nerd Jive reference. If you don't know what that is and you think that we're just crazy. But there's a lot of meat in the logo. So
also, the price of meat has increed exponentially. So
yeah, bam, all the stakes. They're everywhere.
Trying to find a way
on the
to
roof
tie
and
that
such.
in.
But our stakeholders get what I call the barbecue, where once a month at the beginning of the month we hang out and we literally just like get on a chat and like
just like a video chat
and just hang out. Like I feel like technically I have those written down at being like maybe an hour and a half dead max, but generally they go way longer than that because we always got shit to talk about and such. So
yeah,
whatever. But so yeah. Next time we have next week is another Horn and Cauldron pub chat.
That's right.
So that'll include part 2 of the Gerald Gardner Tiger King nonsense. I'm learning a bunch because I'm not doing that research. That's her thing.
It's insanity.
Yeah, she's the research one. I'm the crazy one. Obviously, if you're seeing this video, you can tell my hair. It's bananas. And if you haven't seen part 1, so before next Monday, go listen to part 1. That was last week's podcast episode and or YouTube video because it's on both.
Yep.
So you can catch the first half of that tale, and it is a doozy, to say the least. So stay tuned for that. And then the following week is episode 32 of the Horn and Cauldron podcast, and we were talking about love, magic, and hand fasting.
Yeah.
Which is going to be very interesting. That was a request,
yeah,
right?
That was a request by one of our patrons, Miranda.
Yeah,
so
shout
you're
out.
getting your episode.
Yeah.
And that one is actually coming out on Valentine's Day.
Oh, shoot. That's awesome. Okay.
Yeah, so it's very, very themed with that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I
totally
look
on
forward
purpose,
to it.
100% of the time. We knew what we were talking about. Bam. So speaking of Patreons, we have some Patreons to thank. Thank you, Jeffrey, Alan, Miranda, Helena, and Alexa. Y'all are awesome. You are what is helping us do all this witchy stuff and improve the systems that we have in place, as well as we genuinely enjoy hanging out and talking with you guys.
Yeah.
So, that's awesome. Welcome, Jeffrey. You're our newest patron, and hopefully you have a good time. Hang out.
Yeah.
Either way, I have been John Norgrove. This has been Julie Norgrove. This has been the Horn
and Cauldron
podcast. And we will catch you guys next time. Oh, don't forget to like this video, comment below, share, subscribe, ring the bell, do all that kind of stuff, and leave a review if you're on a podcast network. I always forget that I'm supposed to do that like twice. Listen, I'm a very bad YouTuber. I know it. You obviously know it, right? So you're welcome, I fucking guess. But stay magical, folks.
Yeah, and don't forget, breathe in self-confidence, breathe out self-doubt. Almost said that the opposite way.
That's all right.